Welcome to Office Hours by Triple X Church. I'm your host, Carl Thomas. I'm a certified neurohealth coach, a pastor, and a guy who frankly struggled with a lot of stuff I talk about here for over 20 years until I found freedom about a decade ago. In today's episode, I'm going to be jumping in and answering this question. What resources are there for women who struggle with masturbation? That's what I will be discussing today, so make sure you hang in there with me, recognizing no questions are off the table, and I'm going to be as honest with my answers as I possibly can be, so don't get offended. Without any further delay, let's jump in. Okay, so this question came into our office hours page. I'm a female struggling with masturbation. I'm also married. Are there resources to help me? This is a great question, and to be honest, it's not an easy one because here's the reality, right? Women and men both struggle with masturbation, fantasy, porn. And you didn't say fantasy and porn, but I'm assuming the masturbation is going along with something. Maybe that's a bad assumption on my part. But both men and women struggle with this stuff. Men do to a greater, I don't want to say degree, but more men struggle with it than women, although the difference in that number shrinks every year. The problem is, while very few people at all want to self-identify as having a problem with unwanted sexual behavior, men are far more prone to do so than women. And the reasons for that are basically twofold. There's the shame of the fact that you deal with unwanted sexual behavior. But for women, there's like a second level of shame they experience because they're dealing with what they understand to be a male problem. And it's not a male problem. It's a people problem, right? Men, women, we both are prone to these sorts of things. And the reason we deal with unwanted sexual behaviors, generally speaking, always goes back to some sort of mental health issue, if you will. That's just a fact of life. But because there's so many men versus women, there's fewer programs out there for women, right? It's supply and demand, right? You see a lot of guys asking for help. You don't see a lot of women. Most people are going to come out with a male program. There are some things out there for women. Our ministry, for instance, we have small groups online with support groups specifically for women who struggle with masturbation or fantasy or any of that stuff. You can check that out on our website. So we do have that. I would tell you, though, beyond that, counseling is always a good solution or a good resource because you want to figure out why you're kind of dealing with this masturbation stuff, especially since you're married and you have a husband. Like there's something going on there, right? A counselor would be good, and that's available to men or women. Of course, medical insurance and those sorts of things are a factor. There are some communities out there. We don't offer an online community like Live Free for women. We do offer a spouses community. That is hopefully something we're going to be able to do in the future. That said, I would tell you this, that even though there are differences between men and women when it comes to masturbation and porn and fantasy and acting out, the main reasons that we struggle with this stuff are still very similar, right? They still are all brain related. They're all emotions related. They're all, both men and women are trying to deal with life in a way that's not healthy. So I would tell you that books and courses out there, even if they're not specifically geared towards women, still could be very helpful for you because it's going to help you get to some of this, hey, why am I dealing with this stuff? But, you're just going to have to do some research. And again, we have support groups for women that can help you out. And I think a counselor would be a real plus here for you. That's all I got. Hope that helps. If you have a question for me and you want me to answer it in an upcoming Office Hours episode, go to triplexchurch.com/office-hours. Submit your question there and I will answer it. That's about all I got. Have a great week.